So can we give a huge warm welcome, raise the roof off for Phil Thornton.
Thank you, George.
Welcome, thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. So, are we all having a good afternoon?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure we all found Rob very inspiring. What a guy, what a great speech. So, why am I here? Well, I'm here to share with you my passion for property. I want to help you. I want to help you benefit as I've benefited. And if it's all right with you, I'd like now to take a moment and begin to share that with you. So, who here would like to make six-figure profit from their next deal? Say aye.
Aye.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, more on that in a moment. We'll come to that. But if it's all right with you, I'd like to share a little bit about myself first. So, this is me. I'm a builder by trade. I've been developing now for about 18 years, something like that, on and off. So, this is me stood on top of my house roof that I built for myself. This was the second one I did for myself. So a little bit of history. I began working in the family building business, construction business at about 14, generally in holidays, weekends, that sort of thing. So I worked in that up to the age of 25. Over the years I've built more than 30 new build houses, 7 barn conversions, farmhouse renovations. So I've got quite extensive knowledge in quite a few different areas as well. So when I tell you that new build is my preference, it's not, it's not to be taken lightly. It's the one that I think offers the best way to make big money. During the early years, we used to work for a local developer as well, and they were very successful. So we picked up a lot of information from them as well. So I specialise in build to sell, build to rent, and I'd like to go through that in a bit more detail. So these are some of the past projects that we've done, and there's new builds, as I say, barn conversions, farmhouse renovations. That's the big one is a farmhouse renovation with a new build extension on, massive property. It had another annex out the back as well, so that was a great project that we worked on. So this is my barn conversion, this is my house. The reason I include this in, I've managed to secure this on an option, and George has touched on options this morning, and I'll be doing so in a little bit more detail later. So although it's not a new build, it's relevant. I've got the experience with the options as well. So here I am, age 23. This was my first plot of land that I bought. It was a pub car park. I bought it with outline planning permission. Took it to full plans, got the full plans, did the building regs, and then I built this out nights and weekends. Took me about 18 months. So that was good. I'll give you a few of the details. So that purchase price was £32,000. That was for the plot of land. Build cost was approximately £60,000. Bearing in mind I did a lot of the work myself, So that's why the build costs are low. So when I finished it, the valuation was approximately £230,000. So a profit of about 138 grand. Not bad. 23. Yeah. So I didn't actually sell this. I retained it and it rents out £650 a month. Cash flow is pretty good. The mortgage is minimal. It was a good deal, good first deal. So the next deal, profit of £135,000. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. And I'd just like to ask you the question, how much time, how much work, how much effort would you have to put in? You don't have to tell me, I'm not being nosy, but how much effort would you have to put in to get that sort of return from your day job? Yeah? Exactly. If you're well paid, it might be 1 year, might be 2 years, might be 3 years. As George says, it could be 10 years. So what sort of a deal do you have to do to get that kind of profit? Are we looking at building 10 houses or 12 houses? What is it? Well, I'll show you. This is the latest deal. It's a plot of land up in Cumbria. It's not quite on the edge of the Lake District, but when we're in Doncaster and it's 100 and something miles away, it's virtually on the edge of the Lake District. So this isn't a big plot necessarily, it's 0.4 of an acre. I bought it with planning for 2 detached bungalows, 3-bedroom bungalows. So a relatively small development, but pretty good returns, I'm sure you'll agree. What else? Oh yes, so this is something else that is a good time to point out. Property is a people's game and relationships are massive. And this came to me through an agent that I've known for a long time. And it came to me 3 weeks before it came onto the open market. So, does that sound like a big advantage?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had 3 weeks. I dug out all the plans, they're all online, got all the information, did the due diligence. And the day that it came onto the open market, I was able to submit an offer. Now, they didn't accept that first offer, and it was a bit of a cheeky offer. They wanted £135,000 for it. My first offer was £95,000. So it was definitely cheeky, but, if you're not a little bit embarrassed by what you're putting in, then, as I say, it's not low enough. So they said they wanted some time to think about it, leave it on the open market. 3 weeks later, they came back and said they'd take 120. I think I went up to 100. They then came back again, wanted 110, and we settled at 105. So £30,000 below the asking price. As I say, it all came through a long-term friend, a long-term relationship, and that's what property is about. The other thing was this had some conditions that were attached to the planning that they hadn't dealt with fully, and this gave me a really good bargaining chip, and I'll touch on that again later. So the headline figures, purchase price was 105,000, development costs including the fees, 280,000, and the gross development value, which is the value of both properties once they've been built out, is about £520,000. It may go up, there's potential for it to be nearer 560, depending on the market at the time. So, as I say, more headline figures. The profit's 135,000, 25% return on the GDV, 36% return on costs, and 128% return on capital invested. Does that sound good? Can you get that in a bank? No, nowhere near. So, what could you get for your £135,000? Does a nice car sound appealing?
Yeah, that does.
You what?
That does.
Yeah. Spend time, go on holiday. Yeah. More time with the family, and this comes up a lot, but it's key, it's one of my whys, and I'm sure it's a lot of people's in here's whys. Family time is vital, it's crucial. They grow up so fast, and being able to spend that time with them is so important. And then lastly, I don't know whether this applies to anyone, but there's quite a few people I know would also like to write a letter like this. Yeah. Anyone in here wish to write that letter?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's today about? We run the course, Building for Profit. It's a 6-step process. It's £2,147. What we do, we literally just break it down. Everything about learning is just small steps. Doesn't matter what you're doing, whether it's when you're starting out, even when you're a baby, learning to walk, you start crawling, then you start walking, then you start running, then you start pulling everything off the shelves and all that sort of thing. But everything's just little steps all the time. And that's what we talk you through with the course. So, if you allow me to, I'll talk through a little section of the course just to give you a flavour of what it's about, the sort of information that you'll be getting. So why new build developments or other strategies? For me, new builds they're so much easier. I've been around them all my life. It's easier to accurately predict building costs. So there's a slight caveat with that, and that's ground conditions. But once you're out the ground, you know exactly what you're getting. You know exactly what your costs are. You can estimate your costs down to almost the last penny. You're not going to get any unexpected surprises such as asbestos, which I think you probably get quite a lot of around here. Yeah, what else? Failing structures. Sometimes you don't know what's hidden behind stud partitions, things like that. Anyone done any refurbs? Yeah, you'll come across many a problem. Damp's always a typical one, isn't it? Especially when you're doing your Victorian terraces. So easier to accurately predict building costs. And that's really important when you're looking for finance as well. If you can go to a bank and say, this is what we need, there's a 10% contingency in there, we won't need it, but it's there. You know, getting the finance is a lot easier. 0 rated for VAT. So anyone who does the refurbs, you have standard 20% VAT, yeah. You get your commercial conversions at 5%. New build is 0 rated, so your tradesman won't charge you any VAT, and any materials you buy, you'll be able to claim that back. Premium price for new build. Now, this is great whether you're selling or retaining. So a new build, obviously, like for like in the area. If you've got a new build property, it's more appealing for one when you're looking to sell them, but also you'll get a higher market value for them. In terms of rent, you'll get the higher valuation from your mortgages, and hopefully that'll allow you to extract most of your finance, if not all your finance, and even a little bit on top. So mixed strategies for maximum profit. So once you've built these out, there's nothing to stop you turning them into a HMO, which I think Phil Ash is going to talk a bit more on in a moment, or even your service accommodation, which John Mann explained so nicely this morning. So if you've got that in mind, you can also design that into your product at the start. So HMOs, typically people like to put maybe a few more en-suites in, or another bathroom or something, so you can have all your pipe work set up, make sure that your boiler's sized correctly. So good planning means that you can maximise your profit. New houses can be designed for low maintenance as well. So why is this important? If we're holding on to them to rent, do you want to be spending massive amounts on maintenance? No, absolutely not. So yeah, low maintenance, plastic fascias, plastic windows. The other benefit with new build houses is that the insulation levels, because of the SAP calculations, are so high. If you're holding on to them and you're paying the bills perhaps in a HMO, your heating bills are less. You have to have low water consumption items in there as well. Reduces your water bills. Most of your lights will be low voltage, saving on your energy costs that way. And also, and this is something that's going to go into one of my new developments, is the air source heat pump. So with the air source heat pump, it's classed as a renewable energy, and I don't think there's any grants available any longer, but they do offer you a payment. It's called an RHI payment, and that is paid 4 times a year. So I'll give you a bit of perspective. Mine's actually a ground source heat pump in my house, but that pays me back £2,400 a year. So it's just an added little bonus, something else you can put in. So every property 25% below market value. When you're doing your costings, when you're doing your land valuations, you need to make sure that you've got this margin built into it. And there's no point doing them if you haven't got the 25%. But it's good because obviously you're getting every property 25% below the market value. Now there's less cost building than buying the same number of properties, and I'll explain that a bit more in detail in a moment. And you can leverage your money to go further, so 100% development finance available. And I've got another little example of that in a moment. So stamp duty on the plot of land is 0. Anything under £150,000, commercial isn't liable for stamp duty. Now, so I'm getting the 2 houses on the plot of land that we're building. So stamp duty land tax on just one property, if you were buying them, would be £3,750. Times that by 2. And then because most of you are property investors, you'd also be subject to the 3% extra for the second homes. So big savings straight away there. Another thing to say, if you you're building multiple houses on the same plot, you've only got one set of legal fees, one set of finance fees, whereas if you were to buy, say you had a plot for 8 houses, if you were going to spend time, if you were going to buy 8 houses, you've got 8 sets of legal fees, 8 sets of finance fees. And also another big thing with conveyancing, is it a fast process? No, not at all. What's the average, do you think? 12 weeks? Yeah. Yeah, and the rest. So if you're doing that 8 times 3, 24 months, you know, over 8 houses, you're losing 24 months purely in the buying process. So you can see that if you can actually build 8 houses, it's not going to take you that time. And that, don't forget, that is just the buying process. That's not the refurb and everything else. So being able to build the amount of houses you want is a key way to get around that. So money leverage in action. Purchase price of the land was 105,000. So I paid for that in cash, which means that I can then borrow the rest of the development money. There's no more money, none of my own money then in it after that. I can borrow the rest. So if you're buying 2 houses, just in this example at 275,000, you're going to require a deposit of £137,500. So as I say, it's easier to buy the plots of land. You don't always need massive amounts of cash up front, as you may think. The other advantage is when you're building them, you're not actually paying 275,000 for them. You'll be building those houses for approximately 210,000. So you've already gained, you've gained that extra. If you were buying the houses, unless you can add value somehow, all that money's tied up. But with the building of the land, building of the houses, you can extract hopefully the 25% at the end. Make sense?
Yeah.
Good. So what are the opportunities around build to sell and build to rent? I've got a little graphic here. So the blue line represents the amount of houses that have currently been built in the UK. It's approximately 150,000 units a year, and that's been for the last 5 years. And the red line is the amount of houses that we should be building to keep up with demand. So this graphic shows it at about 220,000 new homes a year. I read another report the other day that said it's actually nearer 300,000 now. So demand for new homes is massive, absolutely massive. On the rental side, this came from a RIC survey, so Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, highly recognised body in the country. Britain faces a 1.8 million shortage of rental homes by 2025 if the government doesn't act fast. So I'm sure you'll agree that is a lot of homes, isn't it? It'd certainly take a while to build 1.8 million homes. And another stat that goes along with this, in 2006 there was just 12% of households were in the private rental sector. Now we're 10 years on, that's up to 20%. So, massive 8% rise in the last 10 years, and if things continue like that, demand's just going to go through the roof. So plenty of opportunities out there, plenty of opportunities. So the opportunity's there. In the end, we only regret the chances we didn't take. Nice little quote. So, finding and evaluating land for development. So there's 3 types of development land that we can find. There's your bare greenfield sites, brownfield sites without planning. So this is kind of, there's a lot of work involved with them. You're going to have to find them. Then you need to get outline planning, full planning. But there's some great opportunities around that, and I'll come to that more in a moment. But that's when we can utilise the options. Second type is outline planning permission. So sites that have already got the outline planning. It'll generally specify how many units can be built and what type of units, so terrace, detached, semi-detached. With them, you then need to go to the full planning application, get the full plans, and then you can build them out. And the third one is plots of land with the full planning already in place. So they are the fastest to start, they're probably going to cost you the most money to buy. and there'll still be possibly some conditions attached, and these are becoming more and more common these days. So surface water, because of all the flooding in the country, the way the weather's going, that always crops up as a condition that needs to be addressed before they'll let you commence. Access is normally another one that you have to prove that you've thought about. You've got a perfect solution for them before you can commence. But they're probably my favourite bit of plots of land to buy, you know, those with the planning in place. So, what methods have we got of finding these bits of land? There's numerous actually. You might want to get your pens out now and make a few notes. But driving and walking around your area, if you know your area well, you've probably a pretty good idea of the type of houses in that area. So therefore that'll give you a good idea of what they're likely to pass. And what you're looking for is probably smallish sites. You normally find them in between houses. They're not really used for anything. They normally gather in rubbish. These can be brownfield sites, perhaps something that's been used maybe as a car park, maybe for a bit of storage, that kind of thing. They're always good. The benefit of them is councils are under pressure as well to pass, and if there's something that's untidy, it's a blot on the landscape. It gives you a really good chance of getting planning permission. Online plot finder sites, so there's plenty of them. Plot finder, plot search. There's normally a small monthly subscription, but it's minimal considering what's at stake. You're not going to begrudge parting with that money. Estate agents, as I've said already, they are vital. You know, start building the relationships with them. And residential agents have these sites, and commercial agents have the sites. But the weird thing with commercial agents I've found, they don't always appear on the likes of Rightmove, Zoopla, Prime Location. For some reason, they just keep them on their local websites. And I've seen it a few times, so it's always worth finding who are the commercial agents in your area and going direct to their website. Don't just think that these things are going to appear on Rightmove, Zoopla, etc. Local authority planning register. Now this is a good one. Get used to going on there, logging on there, seeing what's been passed, and also which architects seem to have the most success with getting the planning as well. And what this will do, this will give you a feel for the types of plots that you need to look for, because you know what type of houses that the council are really keen on. So is it 3 beds, is it 2s, is it flats? You know, get used to going on there. And the other thing with that is look at who's putting the applications in. So if it's individuals putting in for multiple plots, there's a good chance that that plot of land is probably going to come to the market at some point. So if you go on there, you'll usually find the applicant's details, maybe drop them a letter, find out if they're interested in selling it. If the owners aren't on there, then the architect's details will be, so you can always drop them a letter. So that's a good way, that's a good thing to do. And the other thing with architects is if you can make contact with them anyway, they're the ones doing these, they're the ones getting the planning anyway. So if this one's not available, there might be another one further down the line that becomes available. Local papers as well, or industry magazine, Estates Gazette, that's good. There's always stuff in there being advertised, or you can even put your own advert in asking for plots of land. Anyone that may have potential plots of land, and maybe you can JV with them, so you can get the planning in place and maybe split the profit, something like that. Plenty of options. So you found a plot of land. How do you evaluate it? How do you decide if it's actually worth pursuing any further? Simple calculation. This is just like a quick desktop appraisal. You don't want to waste more than 20 minutes, half an hour doing this, because if you did that with every potential plot of land you found, it would take you forever. So I'll quickly run through this we'll put an example up on the board. So GDV, gross development value, minus all your build costs. Don't forget to put anything in there. Don't try and make it fit just because you really want to do it. Minus your profit, and that gives you your land value. That's your offer price. That's the maximum offer you can put in. So quick calculation. We'll say, found a plot of land, we think we can get 3 homes on it, £200,000 a home, so £600,000 is the GDV. So what we're looking at, 3 homes, we'll say £250,000 for the build cost, just to keep it simple. Depends where you are in the country, that may be ridiculously low, if you're in London especially. So, what other build costs have you got in there? Well, you need to allow for your professional fees, so architects, surveyors, I'm trying to think what else there might be. There may be some surveys that need doing, drainage surveys. So we always allow at least 10% for your fees. And then the other one that you may not consider is finance. So unless you're really fortunate and have large amounts of money sat around, you're going to be paying some interest on your finance fees as well. So again, we'll say it's 10% of 250 just because it makes it easy, but in reality, you're going to be looking at more like 15% of these two added together. If you can get in and out of a project in about, say 18 months, something like that, then 15% will give you a good margin to work with. So you've got to adapt that depending on how big the project is. But for this example, we'll say it's 10%. And then your profit. This is what we're doing it for. Don't forget to put your profit in. You want to be working on a minimum of 25% of GDV for your profit, especially on your first project. I know some people are quite happy with 10, 15%. They're more experienced developers, but for me, things can change really fast, and if you haven't got that full experience, you don't want to be cutting your margins that tight. It's no fun. It's no fun when you think you're going to be losing money. So minimum 25%. So again, 25% GDV, 150,000. So add all this together, we get, what do we get? 450 from 600. So that means your land value, your best offer you can do is 150,000. So that'll give you an idea of whether you've got any hope of getting this land or whether it's just absolute pie in the sky. And if you are going to put an offer in, make sure it's considerably lower than that and give yourself somewhere to go. So is that clear? Does that make sense? Yeah. No questions? Man at the back, no? So, we mentioned it a little bit earlier, I touched on it with the options. This is a low entry cost into potential developments, planning gain. So this is the plot of land that I was talking about, 0.4 of an acre. Any idea what it would cost to buy just purely as agricultural land? What its value is? I've put £10,000 as it stands without planning, just if you're going to graze some sheep in it or something. In fact, it's not even that. I think agricultural land's probably about £8,000 an acre in this area. So, what is it worth if you manage to secure planning? Well, I paid £105,000. So is there room there for a bit of profit? Yeah. If you can approach the landowner, secure an option on it, say, or even maybe agree a joint venture, say, look, if I go to the expense, I'll get the planning. When we turn it over, can we split the profit? That's an option. Or as we say, get the actual option agreement in place with a solicitor, agree to buy it at a certain price, subject to planning. So the option I had on my barn, that was a 5-year option. So I had 5 years in which to get the planning, get the finance in place, and then I could buy it and build it out. So that's great. You know, those of you thinking, I haven't got any money, how can I get into this? This is one option. And the other thing it is, if you think there's a parcel of land and you're not sure whether you can get planning, you can put in what's called a pre-app. Have we heard of pre-apps, pre-application? So you can put these into the council, outlining what your proposal is, and they'll come back to you with an indication of whether that's likely to get planning or not. And the good thing about that is it doesn't go into the public domain, so you could put that pre-app in on somebody else's land. If it comes back positive, then you can start negotiating and say, you know, where can we take this? Which way is the best way forward?
How much does it cost for a pre-app?
I'd have to check with Damien. I think it's about £300, something like that. So not a massive amount of money. Not when you can potentially make. Yeah. And then the other beauty of it is, if you manage to get the planning and you can hold on to it and develop it out, you know, you're almost doubling your profit. So once you've got that piece of land, you can, if you've got no experience, you can perhaps work with a builder. They can bring the knowledge on that side of it. You can bring the plot of land, and you can maybe share the profit at the end of that. So it's just a way, if you're lacking the experience and the knowledge, you could possibly get into it. So we've done the initial assessment. You know, you've worked out your land valuation, you've worked out your build costs and everything. Does it look like it's going to stack up? Yes. So then we'd have to move on. We'd do the detailed appraisal, visit the site, speak to the agents, and if it comes with planning, you need to check the planning application, check there's nothing onerous in there. There's sometimes, well, there's many a condition that can affect the value, and you need to check the planning, make sure that none of them are subject to that application. So what can you expect from the course? A detailed strategy plan. You need to know where you're going with this. Start with the end in mind, they say, and reverse engineer it. So where do you want to be? How can we get you there? What's the best strategy to get you there? That's key. We'll be starting with that. Then we'll do some more on the sourcing. There's plenty more to do on the sourcing. That's just a tiny element of it all. We'll teach you how to find these deals, stack the deals up and turn them over or develop them out. Project planning. Obviously, project planning on something like this is crucial. You need to make sure that your costs are right. You need to make sure that everything's done on time and in the right order. Finance is obviously a big part. Without the money, you're not going to be able to do these deals. And then the development process and the exit strategy. Exit strategy obviously is massive. It should probably be at the top, really. You need to know where you're going with these things before you can do any of the other stuff. So the next course is at here, Nether Hall, Doncaster, November the 30th, and it's December the 1st as well. It's a 2-day course running consecutively. So, who is this strategy for? What's your biggest reservation? Does anyone in here have anything that's stopping them signing up right now? Any big obstacles? So perhaps normally one that comes out, I don't have the experience. So once you leave the course, you'll have all the details you need, all the knowledge you need to be able to go out and find the deals. And then it's a case of perhaps JVing, working with someone who does have the experience, such as myself, or if you have good contacts with local builders, maybe they can bring that to the development, and that'll help you secure the finance. So this is just a graphic, something like this. Once you've done the course, you'll be able to draw up your own action plan. And if you can stick to this action plan, you'll be able to do just about any development. It just breaks everything down into tiny steps. So you've got all the jobs that are to do down the left-hand side. You've got the timescale along the bottom of when they should be done. And all you have to do is manage the contractors, manage the architects, whoever it is, just make sure that they're keeping on time and on schedule. And it just helps break it down. As I say, everything's about small, tiny steps. If you can get a big project down into tiny steps like this, it just makes it so much clearer, so much more manageable. There's a little screenshot in a bit more detail. So design phase, planning application, building regs, pre-contract commencement. You can see all the jobs, and as I say, they're just divided up into sections, so you can just manage them really, really easily. So, here's a common problem we come across. I don't have the money. Once you've left the course, once we've taught you how to find the deals, a good deal will always find money. Now, if it's your first deal, you may have to give up a little bit more equity in it in order to get the finance, but the key thing is that you manage to get started, get off the ground, get something under your belt, and then that will help you attract more money for future deals, and it'll also help you gain the knowledge and experience that you need to perhaps approach the more traditional lenders, such as your banks or building societies. Once you've got a track record, they'll be much more keen to lend to you, and they'll lend at lower rates as well. So anything else? I think we've pretty much covered everyone's questions in here, haven't we? So I'll move on. Some more things that we'll look at in more detail on the course when you're doing your site visits, services, gradient of the site, surrounding houses, nearby watercourses, ground conditions, etc. These are all things that I'll teach you what to look out for and why you're looking out for them. And then we'll move on to the due diligence. Obviously, massive part of stacking up your deals. You need to make sure this is all done right. So, once you've done through all the due diligence, you've got the site secured, what next? You need to find your power team. And again, this comes down to networking. You need to go out there, meet people, find out who anyone else is using. These people are the people who will make a deal or break a deal. You know, if you get a bad solicitor and it takes a long time to go through the conveyancing process, you may lose the deal. Warranties, you need to make sure that you've got the correct warranties in place. Same with your company setup, make sure that's right at the start. You don't want to get halfway through the project and think, we should have done it like this. It can have big tax implications at the end. So make sure your power team's in place early on, and we can help you talk through that, find the right people. So, as I say, building for profit, 2-day course, strategy plan, clear defined strategies, sourcing of the land, sourcing of the plots, whatever it is, project planning, finance, development process, and your exit strategy. £2,147. Now, I don't just want to give you that. I'll even throw in a live site visit. Now, this is massively beneficial, and it's probably underpriced, to be honest with you. You can come up, we'll go to one of our live sites. You can walk around the development, ask any questions that you have. We can get the plans out, we can get the building regs out. And then the other thing that we'll do, we'll probably do this in the morning, and then in the afternoon we might spend the time going around other local sites, plots of land that are available. We can talk through the advantages, disadvantages of them, why I think they would work, why they wouldn't work, and then you can go away and you can apply that to your local area. So I think that's an absolutely great bonus. I have a contracts package as well, documents template that I'm willing to put in. I've spent thousands, literally thousands over the years, having these drawn up by professionals. There is part of a shareholder agreement checklist. So if you're going into a JV partnership, setting up in a company structure, there's a list of questions on there that you need to ask your partner in order to draw up your shareholder agreement, and that's a great piece of paper on its own. It can save you thousands in the long run. It will make sure that your visions and your values are aligned, and that you're all thinking on the same page. So I've put a price on that of $2,955, but as I say, I've spent considerably more money than that on these things over the years. And then I will do a post-course phone call as well, one-to-one. So you've gone away, you should be clear on everything, but there may just be some tiny questions that you want answers for, or if you find a development and think, oh, I could just do with a bit of clarification on that, does it add up? I'll do the one-to-one phone call, give me a call, and we'll talk it through. Now that is for the first 3 only. So you've got, let's have a look. Everything, we'll go through everything. 2-day course, 2147. Live site visit, as I say, I think that's probably underpriced. I think that'll be really, really valuable for you. 495. Contracts package, 2955. And the one-to-one post-course phone call. That's for the first 3 only though. Total value of the package, 6094. And today's price only, 1287. So it's time to decide, is this a strategy for one day or is it going to be day one? And would one deal change our life? You know, they're not big developments, they're fairly easy to manage, big profits. I don't think it's beyond anyone in this room. So, you're still wondering if you don't have the knowledge, what can you do? We've got the answer. There's the course, it's all there. The price is great, there's the 100% money back guarantee. So, if you've got any further questions, I will be at the back. Other than that, thank you very much.